Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Merhaba, as you say here in Istanbul. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me. I'm the president of the Event Manager Association in Spain, and I'm also the head of events in Amadeus. You probably know Amadeus GDS, so I work in that company that not only does the GDS, but many other products and services in the travel industry. And Murtaza contacted me some time ago to come here and speak about the COVID situation in the Spanish MICE industry. Spain is a very dependent country in tourism. And today I will be speaking a little bit about it as a destination because it has similarities with Turkey. In fact, Turkey is one of our main competitors. The effects that COVID has had in the industry, also from the corporate planners' perspective. I will tell you about what we do in the Event Managers Association in Spain and what is happening now, as we see it in the industry. So Spain, as I said, has a big infrastructure for conferences and incentives. We have 45 public operating airports in a country that is not that big, is quite good connections. We have the best rail network in Europe, and we have over 17,000 hotels, which means 875,000 beds, which 50% are 4- and 5-star hotel properties. We have over 50 convention centers, and we are the third country in the world in number of exhibitions, conferences, and conventions hosting. And we are also the 5th country in the world with more Michelin star restaurants. We have 174 Michelin star restaurants in the country. So imagine how the pandemic has impacted us when everything was stopped. A few figures for you to have an idea. The MICE industry has over 10 billion euros impact in our economy, and it generates over 80,000 jobs. The MICE represents around 13% of the GDP of the country, and is around 15% of the whole touristic sector impact in the economy. So, you know, figures are quite impactful. So what effects that obviously everybody knows? The travel restrictions and local lockdowns have supposed a stop to all. Teleworking is a new norm, so for corporations, when you send your people to work at home, you cannot make them travel for conventions, and that has had a huge impact. And then the economical crisis. Let's not forget that this is not only a sanitary crisis, but also is having economical effects, and that affects directly the marketing budgets that are the ones that drive events. And then obviously, digital existed already. Streaming is not something that was invented in 2020, but the shift has been massive because there was no other choice, no other option to keep on communicating with our employees and with our customers. And they have had their chance, and digital has become the new norm. In the Event Managers Association, we are one of the few associations in the world composed only by corporate managers. We have at the moment 320 members, only corporate event managers in Spain. And our mission is to elevate the figure of the corporate event manager, not only in our companies, but also in the MICE industry. Corporate event managers have been normally seen as logistical elements and not as strategical elements, but we are the key between the two worlds. We are the key between the strategy of the companies and the tourism industry and the MICE industry. And this is what we fight for through education, networking events, and defending the interests of our collective in the industry and also in our companies. And we also foster collaboration across other associations in our country and also outside. That's why we are here today. So what is happening now? Here I brought you some results of 2 global surveys that were conducted by Amadeus as a global player in the travel industry. These first figures correspond to a survey conducted at the end of 2020 called Destination X amongst travelers worldwide. So here are some interesting and promising figures. For example, we saw here with this survey that 71% of the respondents would be ready to travel between 1 and 3 months after the pandemic is over. 70% of the travelers expect to have more budget than they did before, which is good news for us. There was another result here that they said that they were expecting to do less travel, but for longer periods, rather than doing multiple short travels. 72% of the travelers will travel again. So people need to travel. People need to connect to other people. And this translates directly to the MICE industry. And 96% of the travelers will continue flying, although air travel won't feel as comfortable as it did before. Now, the pandemic has the issue of safe travel, and the previous speaker was touching on this, on the health protocols, etc. On another survey that Amadeus conducted, these are the main concerns that travelers have. So 43% are worried about getting the virus, 39% are worried about compulsory quarantines when you come back to your country of origin. 37% of the travelers have fear of getting stranded at a destination, like it happened recently in Morocco. Morocco was open, and then with a notice of 24 hours during the Easter break, thousands of travelers from Spain were stranded there because they closed the borders. So the government started to bring back the travelers in a sort of emergency state. And then 32% of people, when traveling, they are worried about social distancing because the measures taken across the world are not consistent. You have different regulations depending on different countries, and that makes people anxious. So how does this translate into the events corporate world? That at the end of the day, the corporations are the ones that pay for most of the trips. So this pandemic has brought revised marketing plans. When the money is scarce and the budgets are cut, decisions are made more carefully, and we don't invest the same way that we did. And this is an opportunity, because it is true that before, events were done without any planning. Money was just spent. But in the Event Managers Association, we think that events are the most powerful marketing and communication tool that exists in the world, because it helps us changing behaviors, and it helps us achieve our objectives. It helps us to sell and to keep our employees engaged. So this pandemic has brought over conscience about this, and there is better planification, which comes very linked into digitalization. Digital world gives us a lot of data, and it's very important that suppliers understand this need of data that we have at corporations. Providers, event agencies, etc., need to help us achieve these data, these objectives that we have, and they need to help us look at them afterwards to see if the ROI, the return on investment, was achieved or not. Because we believe in the future, events will be an investment, they won't be an expense. And if they don't have return on investment, they won't be done. Something else will be done. So what is happening in Spain at the moment? So the private sector has done very good their homework. They have enhanced the protocols that the governments put in place in terms of social distancing, food and beverage protocols at venues, hotel, etc. And private sector has gone a step beyond. So we have had, in the past few months, a few big global face-to-face events where tests were done on site, which provides a safe environment, because everybody knows that everybody that is in the venue is COVID-free. The public sector is also working a lot on the ODS. I put there the Spanish nomenclature, is the protocols, the sustainable protocols for 2030 that were done by the United Nations. So we are seeing a lot of convention bureaus working on the legacy, working on sustainable initiatives, on carbon emissions, etc. The associations in the sector, not only from event management agencies or ourselves, the corporate event planners, but also the catering associations, the hotel associations, the DMC associations. We are getting together. We have a new association called Forum ICE, and we try to work together to improve the sector. And we also see, and this is very important if any of you are event management agencies, we are seeing the business model changing. Event agencies traditionally have behaved as a third party, an intermediary, and a lot of times they have been seen as commissionists, you know, getting commissions for putting the corporations in touch with other providers. We are seeing and we are pushing for a change in the business model, and where event management agencies, and as the previous speaker was mentioning, they need to be the heroes. We say they need to be consultants. They need to help us achieve our objectives. The value is not in bringing and recommending venues, because we do know a lot of venues. We go to the same networking events as you go. What we need is extensions of our teams, and we need that consultative approach that help us achieve the objectives that make the event have a return on investment. Also, events need to be positioned as strategical and not as logistical. Events cannot be seen anymore as the party where people go to have fun. That's a part of the event, because an event is an experience. But we need to start talking business. Otherwise, when the financial directors assign the budgets, they won't be giving us the budget. And that's something that we have to fight day to day in the corporations. And then we see also some green sprouts. For example, two of the most important luxury hotel brands in the world, Mandarin Oriental and Four Seasons, have opened their two first properties in Spain, in Madrid, during the pandemic. So that shows that the industry is still, you know, betting for this industry, and they believe it will come back. So what is needed for travel recovery? And I think all of us agree, and it was mentioned earlier as well, we need global standardized rules and regulations for better information flows. It is difficult because there are many players and many governments, but it is too complex to go to an airport, and depending on the airline you fly with, you need to bring one type of document or another, or have a PCR test or not, or that's something that there are a lot of bodies working for, and hopefully something close to a global standard will come soon. We need to minimize the touch points during travel, and there is where digitalization comes from. Stop papers and people touching a lot of things, at least while the virus is still alive. We need to stop working in silos. The industry needs to work together. And the travel ecosystem impacts. If there is no mobility, there is no events, there is no tour operation, there is no cruises. So all of us are on the same boat. And that's why we need to stop working in silos, because there are common issues that need to be addressed from the mobility perspective and not only from the business type perspective. Again, more cooperation between the public and private sectors. At least in Spain, we are seeing that the private sector has gone a step beyond what the public sector has done. We don't have, within Spain, we don't have the same regulations between the 52 different provinces that we have. So there are provinces that are closing the shops at 6, there are provinces that are closing the shops at 10. You cannot travel from one province to another, but yes, to the other one. So it's too complex. From an event organizer, it's too risky to plan anything ahead, and an event needs a lot of planning when things change from night to morning. And then I think professionalization of the sector is super important. We need to keep on reskilling ourselves and relearning and get up with the new marketing technologies, because events are marketing and communication. We have to stop being focused only in logistics, but start focusing on the business value and start talking business for it to restart again. I mean, this is a very good example, but I'm sure that if the conditions to travel would have been easier, there would have been many more people in this auditorium today. And I took a quote from the World Health Organization director that said, we can't continue doing things the way we did them before. And that's a fact. Pandemias or big changes are issues, but they are also opportunities. And I think the stop that all of us have had during the pandemia should have given us the time to reflect on the things that we were doing not properly, but you know, the motion of things kept us ongoing, and change the things that need to be changed. So when this virus is controlled, we come back better and stronger. And that's it for me. I left some time if you had any questions for me. If not, it's been a pleasure being here today, and thank you very much.